London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down. London Bridge is broken down, my fair lady.
What it is. So, who's your guys' favorite writer? I asked that because it's frankly amazing to see how one person can sometimes create these multitude of pieces of media and manage to intertwine them together. Put them all in a single universe together, or I guess you could call that a multiverse. Never ceases to baffle me how just some people can create banger after banger and manage to keep people reading them. And the more they read, the more, I guess, loyal they become to the work because it's all connected. That note, my personal favorite writer is this guy. Yeah, he's a mushroom. Don't ask. And in all franchises with what I can call, I guess, you know, these intertwined universes, there's always those characters that don't get enough screen time, or at least would kill to see more of. Like, could you imagine having a spin-off of the Monogatari series with Oshino Meme? Listen, I'm asking you guys this today because I have a story that comes from the bottom of my heart, man. And if you feel anything like that with a certain series or character yourself, you're gonna relate to me a lot. And even more than that, you're gonna understand how stupidly lucky I was in this journey of mine, albeit for a time. Hey, maybe you're a fellow soldier in this character's army. So, favorite writer. Hinoko Nasu is the main creative mind behind once Dojin Circle and now fully fledged media company Type Moon. And from all his works that intertwined into the same universe, we fans, I guess we get to call it the Nasuverse. Get it? Nasuverse? Yep, yeah. Hey, if it still doesn't ring a bell to you, the most popular works of it, well, they're anything and everything with fate in the title. My personal story with them starts all the way back around sometime in 2008-ish. It's when a good friend of mine introduced me to the mystical world of visual novels. And from there, thanks to the efforts of fan translation group Mirror Moon, I got to experience what Tsukihime was. That made me fall in love so much with Type Moon that it just made me go and read everything else I could that I had access to. But I'm not gonna get into the normal Type Moon fan rant here of how Nasu's writing changed my life forever and how it's peak fiction to me and it's everything in my world, but because I'll do it, but just not now. Give me another video for that. I'm here to talk about the one and most important thing, which is always the waifu. You see, I've been a fan of Japanese media from a long time. There was a lot of localization here in Brazil going on in the early 90s, late 80s. But 2008, man, that was the point of no return to me. Gosh, I had so much free time that year. It was also when I got to go to, you know, anime conventions here in Brazil a lot more frequently than I could before. I guess I had a job now. I got to know the otaku community here in Brazil. I made a lot of friends, and honestly, some of them which are the best friends I could ever make. It wasn't that hard to make friends in that community though, and it also wasn't that hard to make enemies, you believe me. All you had to do was start a waifu war. And listen man, I was all for waifus, but I could never pick one. That would be, I guess, the definitive one. I was such a bitch. Honestly, I was starting to lose confidence in myself. I don't think I could ever pick one ever. But after reading Tsukihime, I had a huge moment of introspection for what it's worth in that regard. Man, reading Nasu stuff really did a number on me. You know, no character in that visual novel had interested me more than Aoko Aozaki. I think the way Nasu presented her in the prologue and in the epilogue of that visual novel is still genius. And to this day, I got the goosebumps when I read it again. And she's the mentor character. Yeah, I get it. You have to get rid of her some way or somehow. Usually characters like that just die early in the story, or I guess at least at the halfway point where the protagonist really needs to change or, you know, get the development that they need to get to the end of the hero journey. And the other kills them because they're usually pretty overpowered. You can't really have a narrative with a degree of evolution for the main character if you keep, you know, their clutches around, which would be a mentor to help him out every time they need to. And I honestly really like the way he did it. She just leaves. She has a lot of shit to do. She just up and leaves. Like, good luck, boy. Have no idea when I'll see you again. You see, there's these little bits and pieces of hints in the story trying to tell you what Aoko is and what an amazing person she's supposed to be, or an incredible mage. Most notably an arcuade scene right in the beginning. I mean, we're talking about the princess of the true ancestors here saying, fuck, I don't want to deal with blue right now. Also that she's supposed to be a sorcerer. My 18-year-old head went nuts. Like, wait, what? Why did she call her blue? Isn't that just a color? What the fuck does that even mean? You're telling me there's like a ton of Maji in the world, that's a thing. The fuck is the difference? What is a sorcerer? By the way, since in that era we had no official way of translation on Type Moon, you know, translator groups would have to create these kinds of like, these nouns to try and differ, you know, aspects of the universe. It's just a way they found out to differentiate a spellcraft user from a true magic user. I'm not gonna get into this right now. But man, were there good times. It was fun. What I wouldn't give to have freaking amnesia and be able to read all that Type Moon early shit again. Of course I became obsessed. I needed to know more. I needed to know everything there was about this woman. So I played everything I could. I played Tsukihime, I played Melty Blood, I played React, Cadenza, Kagetsu Tohya, went in forums, went in, even in the wiki, even though people talk shit on that all the time. Everything I could, because to me there was just no fucking way Tsukihime was all there is to it, to that woman. It was so weird. It's the level of interest that I had in that woman I don't think I've ever had in any other character, in any other piece of media. It's honestly an insult to just call her my best girl. She's way more than that. It's because of her mystique that I think I got so interested in the Nasuverse in the first place. It's because I was trying to look out for hints and pieces about her that got me to read everything else. And as that was going on, the Nasuverse became my favorite thing, story-wise, because it made me wish that my reality was actually that. Man, wouldn't it be cool if that shit existed? Reality's all fucked up anyway, so might as well have this shit. It's kind of interesting. And that's when, again, thanks to a dedicated fan community, I found out about Mahotsukai no Yoru, or Witch on the Holy Night. Apparently, it was one of the first things Nasu ever wrote, something he only shared with his close group of friends. That story was going to feature none other than my queen as the main character. A bit later, through official interviews, we would find out it was written around 1996 at a spur of the moment, which said spur happened in Nasu right after he watched Studio Gainax's 1995 cult classics Neon Genesis Evangelion. While in fucking high school, my dude wrote a 400-page novel that would later influence all of his works, and those works would definitely change my life completely. That happening at the spur of the moment. Those are his words. Some people are just blessed with talent, what can I say? Anyway, when I was finding out about this stuff in 2008, it was both amazing and a little bit of anxiety-inducing. Granted, I didn't know all of this info, but I got the gist of it at that time. And to me, there was no telling whenever I would be able to experience this. But then it happened. As if the heavens were opening in 2009, they announced that Mahotsukai no Yoru was going to become a fully fledged visual novel with the best resource they could provide it at the time. You understand how lucky I felt? Dude, there probably were fans of Tsukihime and Nasu from 2002 that were waiting about 7 years to get even a whiff of Mahotsukai no Yoru. And I just happened to get on this hype train 1 year before it's announced. Not even that. Little did I know it was gonna come back to bite me in the ass really hard later. In the form of a language barrier. Listen, it's hard to be a Western Type Moon fan. It's hard. If you don't know your Japanese and them kanji, you fucked. All the juicy stuff it's out of your reach. And I don't want to get into the whole story right now, but Western Type Moon fans that don't know hot Japanese, all we could do is just rely on the fan translation projects. There's really nothing else. And I think it suffices me to tell you guys that ever since 2012, which was the release year for the visual novel, we don't have an English fan translation. At least not a full one. And I'm not here to blame anyone. It's got to be backbreaking work that you're doing for free from fan to fan. And it's just, you can't expect these things to just happen. Really, hats off to the translation groups. Seriously. But I guess ironically, I got to the point where I thought, you know what? If I actually study Japanese, like really study it, I might be able to read something like this in like 5 years or so. So I did study diligently, but only for about 2 years until work wrecked me. I mean, I was at the point I could read One Piece with Furigana. Mahoyo still kicked my ass. Thanks to an existing patch, I could read all the way to like chapter 7. But anything beyond that took me like 30 to 45 minutes per page to make sense of what was going on. And sure, I got through it, but did I really get everything that was written in there? Especially the Nasuverse lingo? Listen, I kind of gave up. I placed all my hopes in a certain fan translation group that was slowly but steady getting progress done. Then in 2022, out of nowhere, it finally happened again. The heavens opened again. 10 years after its launch, in May 2022. And if you don't count, FGO, the extra for the PSP, the thing is, the West was getting the first unprecedented, actually officially licensed and localized Type Moon visual novel. And it wasn't Fate Stay Night. No, your lucky boy strikes again. It was officially now Witch on the Holy Night. I felt so many emotions in the whole possible spectrum of what you can feel. All the money, every single cent shamelessly spent on FGO. All the blood, all the sweat, all the tears, all the SSR servants that took me over 1,000 quartz to get one copy of. And even worse, all the ones that took more than that and decided just not to come to my Chaldea. Damn you, Space Ishtar, you were not getting away this January. All my sacrifice with that game was specifically because I thought that if I contributed to, the profits that Type Moon could have, well, so that I had hope they could use that capital to use in other types of projects. And listen, once they built the Type Moon BB studio, when they announced the Tsukihime remake that wasn't a meme anymore, like, I had hopes, man. I had high hopes. And now it's all worth it. Everything. It's frankly amazing to think all we had to do was just trust the mushroom. And even though I've been waiting about 10 years for this, is this really the right choice? Wouldn't more of a mainstream title be better suited for the first, English localization of a visual novel? Because believe me, when Aoko entered that classroom, I lost my mind. There might be a teensy bit of bias there. I will admit, Witch and the Holy Knight doesn't have the most catching beginning to a narrative. And that's on purpose. Nasu even writes it out. He's saying that not every amazing story has such an intrinsic beginning. And the demo's out, I played it, and honestly, he picked some bits and pieces there. There were some scenes there that are just, your run-of-the-mill, day-to-day, life in the mansion. They did put the Alice scene there. I think that was a good idea, but I think they just should put the first scene where they kind of introduce both of them as witches, and then just that, and that's it. I think that would grab people's attention way more, but hey, but then again, that work is kind of an introduction to what the Nasuverse is. As Takeuchi himself says, it's supposed to lay the foundation for everything. In that lenses, I do think it's a good idea to start with that if you're going to become a Type Moon fan now. And I'll get into this a little bit more in other videos, but like Type Moon content sometimes gatekeeps itself from you guys. Like, I totally understand why some people just can't get behind the El Malloy case files, even though I think they're fucking genius. But I never really got that feeling from Witch and the Holy Knight. Yes, take this opinion with a grain of salt. It's my favorite one. I would say the problem here is getting people actually interested in visual novels itself, rather than exactly which visual novel you're gonna pick. Maybe it's just not for everyone, but I will say if Mahoyo ends up being your first visual novel, it's a hell of a visual novel. Seriously, I've been preaching the word of visual novels to every single person that gets even remotely intimate with me, but it's very hard to get someone to actually give them a shot. Guys, we have to root for this success. If this makes it big, I can't imagine the amount of possibilities for other visual novels that we love to get localized also. Please, we gotta do everything we can, man. I can't see a bad side to localizing everything other than having Artoria actually become Ultra, and that's it. We're just gonna have to live with that. Now, when we get into the announcement itself, I honestly don't have much to talk about, other than the fact that it is completely remastered and fully voiced. As far as visual novel goes, to me, Witch and the Holy Knight already had close to flawless presentation. Man, and from playing the demo, I didn't think it was gonna look this much better. Still can't believe this is real, man. I'm gonna level with you guys here. This is a huge deal for us. If you have the money, please buy Mahoyo. Game companies do this all the time, man. They remaster some old works to see if they sell, to see if it's worth it for them to do, like a sequel or a prequel or whatever the fuck with the IP. They hold the game hostage and will not hesitate to pull the plug if it fails. Some devs actually say they do this kind of shit. Now, frankly, I am not saying that Type Moon is doing this right now, but at the same time, I can't see another damn reason why they would take so long to try and actually localize one of their novels, other than it being the fear of a flop and just not making their money back. Let alone a small fortune in losses. That is, even if you could make that much of losses just by localizing something. Listen, man, I don't know. But if that is the reason, I respect him for giving it a shot, finally. If Mahoyo is a success, it would be huge. Just imagine how many things we wanted that we could get again. We could finally get CCC, we could get Hollow Ataraxia, we could get a fully fledged remaster like this of Fate Stay Night. Everything in English. Not to mention the actual Tsukihime remake in English. I cannot sell this visual novel enough. It's a work of passion, and to me, Kinoko Nasu at his personal best. I have to tell you guys this, even though I'm probably going to say this a lot in future videos. Takeuchi himself, which has been the main character designer for Type Moon since forever, is the biggest fan of this work, and he himself sacrificed having his work on it just so they could have the best possible quality. Honestly, I used to poke fun at those Japanese otakus that they would buy, you know, these 40 copies of a single from, you know, this idol girl that they are fans of, just to try and brute force them to have success. And I'm sorry, I ate my words, because I definitely feel like this guy now. Even though I am confident that if people give this a shot, we're not gonna have to keep selling this like this. It's just gonna go off the shelves. Still feeling confident, like many Type Moon fans on Twitter are saying. It's gonna be the first visual novel to sell 1 trillion copies. That is the future. You know what? Enough. I can't take the hype. It's killing me inside. I'm just gonna end this with an official Kinoko Nasu quote. The greatest thing we could possibly hope to hear is someone say, "I would love to have this woman as my wife, though." Our entire impetus behind this project has been to make the users fall deeply in love with the characters. I am confident that Aoko and Alice are both women that no man would be embarrassed to have as his wife. No man would be embarrassed to have as his... Listen, I would eat a Mount Everest of glass shards just to spend 5 minutes with... Thank you guys for sticking out until the end of this video. Thank you for listening to my incessant rambling and fanboying of Aoko. If you like this video, please comment and subscribe down below. Tell me how hyped you are for Mahoyo. Tell me if you're hyped for any other type of localization in a visual novel. And if content like this, talking about Japanese media, is your thing, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'd really love to have you here every time I put out a video. Thank you guys again for watching. See you on the next one. Peace.